Bro, tight Kubo. Just silence the haters. Because if you told me years ago that the final stretch of Bleach would give us an episode like this, I honestly wouldn't have believed you. Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, episode 45. Defend You. And this isn't just another episode adapting the manga. This is the kind of episode that makes you stop watching for a second and say, wait, did Kubo really just do that? Because one of the biggest criticisms surrounding Bleach's ending has always been the way certain moments were handled in the original manga. But 1,000-Year Blood War has been giving Kubo the opportunity to expand, restructure, and completely rethink certain parts of the final battle. And episode 45 might be one of the biggest examples yet. This episode is basically Kubo saying, you wanted more? Fine, I'll show you. And the craziest part? A massive portion of what we're seeing here goes beyond what manga readers originally experienced. So if you're an anime only, you genuinely had no idea what was coming. And if you're a manga reader, you were probably sitting there thinking, what the hell is happening? And honestly, that is exactly what makes this adaptation so exciting. From the very beginning, the episode feels different. The entire atmosphere is basically screaming that we're approaching the end of the war. Ichigo is standing against Yhwach. The fate of the three worlds is hanging in the balance. And Yhwach is still operating on an entirely different level. Ichigo unleashes even more of his hollow power. And when he enters that transformed state, bro, the animation team absolutely went crazy. This isn't Ichigo just powering up for the sake of looking cool. The episode actually makes his transformation feel desperate. He's not fighting because he wants to prove that he's stronger than Yhwach. He's fighting because there are people behind him that he refuses to abandon. And that's been one of the most important parts of Ichigo's character since the beginning of Bleach. He protects people. That's who he is. But Yhwach understands that. And that's exactly what makes this confrontation so brutal. Yhwach basically turns Ichigo's greatest strength, his desire to protect, into something he can exploit. And that is such a perfect conflict for the final battle. Because Ichigo isn't just fighting an enemy. He's fighting someone who understands the very reason he refuses to give up. But then, we get to Orihime. And this is where the episode goes completely off the rails. Because Orihime has always been one of the most misunderstood characters in Bleach. People have spent years saying she doesn't contribute enough, that she's only there to support Ichigo, that her powers aren't being used properly, that she doesn't get enough major moments. And then Kubo basically walks into the final battle and says, oh, you wanted Orihime to matter? Watch this. Because her abilities aren't just some simple healing power. Orihime's rejection ability has always been ridiculously powerful. And episode 45 finally lets us see that power pushed to an absolutely insane level. She's standing against one of the most powerful beings in the entire Bleach universe. And she refuses to let him have the final word. The way she keeps trying to protect everyone, the desperation, the determination, and then the moment when she realizes what she has to do. That scene hits different. Because for a character who has spent so much of the story trying to protect the people she cares about, she finally takes that philosophy to its absolute extreme. She puts herself on the line. And then she sacrifices herself. Bro, I was sitting there like, Kubo, you can't be serious. And this is where the episode's title becomes even more meaningful. Defend You. It's not just Ichigo defending everyone. It's not just Uryu making his choice. It's not just the Soul Reapers fighting for the future. It's Orihime literally putting herself on the line to protect the people she cares about. And the fact that this sequence is presented with material that manga readers didn't experience in this exact way, that's what makes it so crazy. And that is why I think people need to stop looking at 1,000-Year Blood War as if it's simply the manga, but animated. It isn't anymore. We're watching the final arc being expanded. We're getting additional material. We're seeing fights receive more attention. We're seeing moments that were barely explored in the manga get expanded. And episode 45 takes that idea and pushes it even further. And honestly, I'm here for it because this is exactly what Bleach needed. Now let's talk about the biggest thing. Tite Kubo just proved that the final battle can still surprise us. Think about how crazy that is. The manga finished years ago. People know the ending. People know the major events. People have analyzed every chapter. They've made theories. They've debated powers. They've argued about the ending for years. And now the anime comes along. And suddenly manga readers don't know exactly what's going to happen anymore. That's a huge win for the adaptation. Because what's the point of having a final anime adaptation if the people who read the manga years ago already know every single beat? TYBW has found a way around that. It gives manga readers something new to experience. And episode 45 is one of the clearest examples of that philosophy. And I have to give credit where credit is due. The direction in this episode is insane. The lighting, the camera movement, the facial expressions, the transformation, the energy effects, the way the characters are framed during the confrontation. Everything feels like we're watching the final pages of a massive story come to life. And then you have that ending, where you're just sitting there, processing what you watched. The episode doesn't simply end with, okay, fight continues next week. No, it leaves you with an emotional gut punch. Orihime's sacrifice changes the entire feeling of the battle. And suddenly you're left wondering, what happens now? How does Ichigo respond? What happens to Yahwach? Is Orihime really gone? And most importantly, what is Kubo planning? So if you've been one of those people saying, Bleach fell off, TYBW isn't fixing anything, Kubo can't change the ending, the manga already did it better. I think episode 45 is the episode where you have to at least admit something special is happening here. Because we're no longer watching a simple adaptation. We're watching the final arc being reimagined for television. And that's exciting. You can criticize Bleach. You can criticize the pacing. You can criticize certain character decisions. You can criticize the original ending. That's completely fair. But you cannot tell me that these final episodes aren't giving Bleach fans something they haven't had in years. The unknown. And that is what makes this final stretch so damn exciting. Episode 45 wasn't perfect. There are still things I would have liked to see expanded even further. Some characters deserve more attention. Some battles could use more time. And with the final battle moving at this speed, there's still a lot that needs to be resolved. But when an episode can make manga readers genuinely wonder what happens next, that's a good thing. When an adaptation can take material we already know, add new material, and make us question everything we thought we knew, that's a good adaptation. And when Tite Kubo is directly involved with that process, even better, because this is his story. These are his characters. And if he gets the opportunity to revisit the ending and give certain moments the attention they didn't originally receive, then I'm absolutely going to watch. So, my verdict on episode 45, this was insane. The animation, fire. The direction, fire. Ichigo, absolutely broken. Yahwach, still a menace. Orihime, finally getting the moment she deserves. And Kubo, bro, you really waited until the final stretch to start pulling these tricks? You had manga readers thinking they knew exactly what was coming. And then you dropped an episode where the anime itself started becoming unpredictable. That's crazy. And if this is the level we're getting for the remaining episodes, I don't know if we're ready. Because if episode 45 is any indication, the final stretch of Bleach is about to get absolutely ridiculous. So let me know what you thought about episode 45. Was this one of the best episodes of Thousand Year Blood War? Did Orihime's sacrifice shock you? And most importantly, do you think Kubo is going to keep changing things from the manga before this is all over? Because after this episode, I'm not trusting anybody anymore. Not Ichigo, not Uryu, not Yahwach, and definitely not Tight Kubo. Bleach is cooking.